Mommy said I was never supposed to meet you. I heard the words before I even saw the little girl. The ballroom had been filled with soft music, quiet laughter, and the clink of expensive glasses, but somehow that tiny voice cut through everything. I turned toward the sound just as a 6-year-old girl came running from the hallway. She wore a pale blue dress, white sneakers, and a small silver bracelet that caught the chandelier light with every step. Then she reached me. Her little hand struck my wrist. My glass slipped from my fingers and shattered across the marble floor. Silence swallowed the room. Every person in that ballroom knew who I was. Ethan Callahan, the man whose name could close doors without a word. The man people watched before they spoke. But this little girl simply stared up at me with wide green eyes, completely unaware that half the room was holding its breath. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Then she looked at my face again. Her expression changed. Confusion, recognition, fear. "You're him." I crouched slowly, keeping my voice calm. "Who am I?" She glanced over her shoulder. A woman was running toward us. Late 20s. Dark blonde hair. Simple black dress. No jewelry except a thin silver chain around her neck. The moment she saw me, she stopped. Her face went pale. "Lily," she said softly. "Come here." The girl didn't move. Instead, she looked back at me. "Mommy said you killed my daddy." Something inside me went completely still. I had heard accusations before. I had been blamed for things I had never done and feared for things I had. But those words were different. They reached somewhere buried beneath years of silence. I looked at the woman. "Who is she?" She swallowed. "My daughter." Her name? Lily Bennett. Bennett. The name struck me harder than the broken glass beneath my shoes. 6 years ago, there had been another Bennett in my life. A woman I had loved before power became the only thing I trusted. A woman who disappeared without saying goodbye. A woman whose last message to me had been only 3 words. "Don't look for me." I had obeyed. Or at least I had convinced myself I had. Lily stepped closer. "You're Ethan, right?" I couldn't answer. She looked at me with an innocent curiosity that made the entire room disappear. Then her eyes dropped to my hand. "You have the same eyes." I glanced toward the woman. She was already reaching for Lily, but I noticed something hanging from the child's wrist. A small silver bracelet. An old bracelet. One I had not seen in 6 years. My breath caught. I remembered buying it in a little jewelry shop in Boston on a cold December afternoon. I remembered placing it around a woman's wrist and telling her that someday, if we had a daughter, I wanted her to have something that belonged to both of us. I had thought that memory was dead, but the bracelet was here, on the wrist of a little girl who was looking at me like she had known my name long before tonight. "Where did you get that?" I asked. The woman stepped between us. "We need to leave." Her voice trembled. Lily looked up at her mother, then back at me. "Mommy said you would never find us." And suddenly, I understood. She wasn't afraid that I would hurt them. She was afraid that I would remember them. The room seemed to forget how to breathe. I looked at Lily, then at Claire, and for the first time in years, I felt something stronger than suspicion. I felt uncertainty. "Your name is Claire Bennett," I said. She nodded once. "And you have been raising Lily for 6 years." Her fingers tightened around the little girl's hand. "Yes." I looked again at the silver bracelet. "Where did you get that?" Claire did not answer. Lily did. "Mommy says it belonged to someone important." I lowered my voice. "Someone important to her?" Lily shook her head. "To you." Claire closed her eyes for half a second. That was enough. She knew exactly what I was thinking. "Ethan," she whispered, "this is not the place." I glanced around the ballroom. Dozens of guests were pretending not to watch us. The music had stopped. Even the servers had gone quiet. I had built my reputation on controlling every room I entered. But now a 6-year-old girl had turned an ordinary evening into something I could not control at all. "Then tell me where," I said. Claire looked toward the exit. "Somewhere private." I nodded. One of my security men stepped forward, but I raised my hand. "No one follows us." Claire looked surprised. Perhaps she expected an army. She should have known better. I wanted answers, not an audience. We moved into a quiet hallway away from the ballroom. Lily walked between us, holding Claire's hand. Every few steps, she looked up at me. I could almost feel the questions forming behind those green eyes. Finally, she stopped. "Are you mad at Mommy?" "No," she studied my face. "Are you mad at me?" "Never." The answer came too quickly. Claire noticed. So did I. I had spent years learning how to keep emotion out of my voice, but that little girl had somehow made the habit disappear. We reached a private sitting room overlooking Fifth Avenue. Claire closed the door. Lily climbed onto a sofa and swung her feet above the carpet. I stayed standing. Tell me the truth, I said. Why did you tell her she should never meet me? Claire looked toward the window. Manhattan glittered below us. Thousands of lights scattered across the city. Because I knew this day might come. You knew I would find you? No. I knew Lily would find you. That answer stopped me. What does that mean? Claire turned toward me. Her eyes were tired. Not frightened. Tired. She has been asking questions about her father for years. My chest tightened. Her father? Claire hesitated. She knows there was a man before me. A man who loved her mother. I took one slow breath. What was his name? Claire looked directly into my eyes. You already know. I wanted to reject it. I wanted to call it impossible. But then Lily reached into the small pocket of her dress and pulled out a folded photograph. She held it toward me. Mommy keeps this hidden, she said. I took the photograph. My fingers stopped moving. It was old. The edges were worn. The image showed a woman standing beside a younger version of me. Her smile was the same one I remembered, and around her wrist was the silver bracelet. On the back of the photograph, someone had written 6 words. I turned it over. My heart seemed to stop. If he ever finds us, tell him. If he ever finds us, tell him. I read the words twice, but the rest of the sentence had been torn away with the edge of the photograph. My thumb moved over the damaged paper as if the missing words might somehow return. Where did you get this? I asked. Claire did not answer immediately. Lily watched us from the sofa, her small shoes swinging above the carpet. It was with her things, Claire finally said. Whose things? Your daughter's mother. My eyes lifted to hers. You knew her? Claire nodded. I knew her very well. The room felt smaller. The city outside continued moving, headlights sliding along Fifth Avenue, people crossing streets, taxis stopping beneath glowing signs. But inside that room, everything had narrowed to one photograph and one impossible question. Her name was Amelia, Claire said quietly. The name hit me with the force of a memory I had spent 6 years trying not to touch. Amelia. I had not spoken her name aloud in years. Not because I had forgotten her. Because I had not. I remembered the way she laughed when she was nervous. I remembered the tiny apartment we once shared before my life became complicated by people, promises, and responsibilities I could not explain to someone who wanted a simple future. Then one morning, she was gone. No warning. No goodbye. Only an empty apartment and a message telling me not to search for her. I had searched anyway. For months. Then years. Nothing. She died. I whispered. Claire looked down. That is what you were told. My heart began beating faster. What does that mean? Claire walked toward the window. It means Amelia wanted you to believe she was gone. Why? Because she believed that was the only way to keep Lily safe. I looked at the little girl. She was watching us now. Safe from whom? Claire turned around. From the people who knew what Lily meant to you. I said nothing. Claire continued. You were becoming more powerful. Amelia knew your world was changing. She was afraid that if anyone discovered you had a child, Lily would become part of that world before she was old enough to understand it. So she disappeared. Yes. And you helped her. Claire nodded. I promised her I would protect Lily if anything happened. Lily suddenly slid off the sofa and walked toward me. She stopped beside my hand and looked at the photograph. That is my mommy, she said. Yes. She pointed at the younger man beside Amelia. And that is you. I looked down at her. Yes. Lily tilted her head. Were you my mommy's friend? The question was innocent. The answer was not. Before I could speak, Claire whispered, he was more than that. Lily looked between us. Then why did mommy say he could never find us? Claire closed her eyes. I knew she was trying to decide how much truth a 6-year-old could carry. Then Lily noticed the photograph again. There is something behind it, she said. I turned it over. The torn paper lifted slightly from the corner. Beneath it was a second photograph, folded carefully and hidden for years. I pulled it free. This one showed Amelia holding a newborn baby. On the back was a date. 6 years ago. And beneath the date, written in Amelia's handwriting, were 4 words that changed everything. Her name is Lily Bennett. The name on the back of that photograph was Lily Bennett. I stared at it until the letters blurred, then looked at the little girl standing beside me. 6 years old. Green eyes. My eyes. The realization was too large to fit inside one thought. Claire, I whispered, what am I looking at? She took a slow breath. The truth. I turned the photograph over again. Amelia was holding a newborn baby wrapped in a white blanket. Her expression was exhausted, but peaceful. I remembered that expression. I remembered wondering, 6 years ago, why she had suddenly stopped answering my calls. I remembered the empty apartment, the unanswered messages, the final note. I had believed she chose to leave me. Now I was looking at proof that she had been carrying a secret I never knew existed. Why did she not tell me? I asked. Claire looked at Lily. Because she was afraid. Of me, not of you. Claire paused. Of what would happen if the wrong people discovered you had a daughter. I lowered the photograph. You said Lily was supposed to be safe. What exactly were you protecting her from? Claire sat down slowly. Her hands were trembling now. Your name had become bigger than you realized. People watched. Your family. They watched your business. They watched everyone close to you. Amelia believed that if they knew about Lily, she would never have a normal childhood. I looked toward Lily. She was studying the photograph with innocent curiosity. So you hid her? Yes. For 6 years. Yes. And you told her I was gone. Claire shook her head. I never told her you were gone. I told her that someday, if she met you, she needed to remember one thing. Lily looked up. What? Claire smiled sadly. That you were not a monster. I felt something tighten in my chest. No one in my world used words like that around me. People used powerful, dangerous, untouchable. They rarely used human. Lily stepped closer and reached for my hand. Her fingers were tiny against mine. Mommy says you are sad, she said. I looked at Claire. She told you that. Lily nodded. She said you lost someone a long time ago. I swallowed. I did. Was it my mommy? I could not answer. Claire did it for me. Yes. Lily looked down at the photograph. Then she looked back at me. But she loved you. The words landed quietly. Somehow that was worse than any accusation could have been. I had spent 6 years believing Amelia had abandoned me. I had built walls around that belief until it became easier to live within hope. Now a child was standing in front of me, holding the missing piece of my past in her small hands. I looked again at the silver bracelet around her wrist. Who gave you that? Lily smiled. Mommy said my daddy gave it to her. My breath caught. Claire looked away. She knew the question that came next. I stepped closer to the window and stared at the city below. 6 years of unanswered questions had just become one terrifying possibility. I was not looking at Amelia's daughter. I was looking at mine. And somewhere beyond that room, someone had spent 6 years making sure I never found out. The possibility followed me all the way home. I could not shake it. Lily was my daughter. The thought repeated itself through every red light, every turn, every mile of Manhattan pavement between the hotel and my townhouse. I had spent 6 years believing Amelia had left me. Now I had a 6-year-old girl who looked at me with my own eyes and wore a bracelet I had once given her mother. But I needed proof. Not because I doubted Lily. Because I needed to know the truth before I allowed myself to hope. The next morning, I sat alone in my study with the photograph Claire had given me on the desk. Morning light spilled across the polished wood, touching the worn edges of the picture. I called my attorney, then stopped. This was not a business matter. I called my private physician instead. I need a discreet family test, I said. Today, by noon, everything was arranged. Claire agreed to cooperate, but only if Lily was kept out of the process until we knew the answer. She did not want the little girl caught between adult emotions. I respected that, more than she probably realized. That afternoon, Claire brought Lily to a quiet medical office on the Upper East Side. I arrived separately. No entourage, no formal introductions. Just a man trying to understand whether the child waiting inside was really his. Lily sat beside Claire, coloring on a sheet of paper. When I entered, she looked up immediately. You came. I smiled. I said I would. She held up her drawing. It showed 3 people standing beneath a bright yellow sun. This is Mommy, she said, pointing to Claire. This is me. Then she pointed to a tall figure wearing a black suit. And this is you. I looked at the drawing for several seconds. Why did you give me a blue shirt? She shrugged. Because black is too serious. I laughed before I could stop myself. It was a small sound. Unfamiliar. Almost forgotten. Claire watched me carefully. For the first time since we met again, she smiled too. The appointment itself was simple. A few questions. A few samples. Nothing dramatic. Yet waiting for the result felt longer than any negotiation I had ever endured. 2 days later, the envelope arrived. I sat at the same desk where I had studied Amelia's photograph. Claire stood across from me. Lily was in the next room with a coloring book. I opened the envelope. I read the first line, then the second. My hands went still. The result was clear. There was no uncertainty, no complicated explanation. Lily was my biological daughter. 6 years. 6 years I had missed her first steps, her first day of school, her first lost tooth, every birthday candle, every fever, every bedtime story. I closed my eyes. Claire's voice was quiet. Now you know. I looked toward the doorway. Lily was standing there. She had heard us. Know what? She asked. I could have protected myself with another lie. Instead, I walked toward her and lowered myself to her level. Lily, I said softly, I think your mommy has been waiting a very long time for me to find you. She looked at Claire, then back at me. Are you my daddy? The question was barely a whisper, but it changed everything. I nodded. Yes. Lily stared at me for a moment. Then she asked the one question I was not prepared for. Why did you take so long to come home? Why did you take so long to come home? I had no answer that a 6-year-old should ever have to hear. I looked into Lily's green eyes and felt the weight of every birthday I had missed. Because I did not know where you were, I said quietly. She studied my face. Mommy knew. I glanced at Claire. She lowered her eyes. She did, I admitted. But she thought she was protecting you. Lily considered that for a moment, then climbed onto the sofa beside me. Are you going to leave again? The question was so simple that it almost broke me. No, I said. Not if you want me to stay. She smiled. I do. Claire turned toward the window. I could see the tension in her shoulders, the years of decisions she had carried alone. You should be angry with me, she said. I looked at her. I am angry. She nodded. I understand. But I am not angry because you protected her. Claire finally faced me. Then why? Because you decided I would never have the chance to be her father. Silence settled between us. It was not an easy silence. It carried 6 years of missed moments and questions that could never be answered completely. Claire looked down at her hands. Amelia asked me to keep Lily away from your world. She could have asked me. She believed you would choose your world over her. That sentence stayed with me. 6 years ago, maybe she had been right. I had been consumed by responsibility, reputation, and the constant pressure of protecting everything I had built. I had thought control was the same thing as safety. Now I understood how wrong that could be. Lily reached for my hand again. Can we have dinner together? I looked at her. Of course. Pizza. I smiled. Pizza. She laughed. Mommy says you probably eat fancy food. I glanced at Claire. Your mother knows very little about my dinner preferences. Lily giggled. For the first time, the room felt lighter. Then my phone vibrated. I looked at the screen. A message had arrived from a number I did not recognize. There was no greeting. No explanation. Just one sentence. We know you found her. My smile disappeared. Claire noticed immediately. What is it? I turned the phone face down. Nothing you need to worry about. She shook her head. Do not do that, Ethan. Do what? Protect people by deciding what they are allowed to know. Her words were quiet, but they landed hard. Lily was still coloring beside us, completely unaware of the change in the room. I looked at Claire, then at my daughter. The old instinct inside me wanted to take control of everything. Move them somewhere secure. Arrange every detail. Make every decision. But Lily had just asked me if I was going to leave again. I could not become another person who made choices for her without explaining why. I put my phone on the table. Someone knows about Lily. Claire went still. Who? I do not know yet. Lily looked up from her drawing. Is something wrong? I forced a calm smile. No, sweetheart. We are just figuring something out. She nodded and returned to her picture. Then she held it up proudly. 3 people again. Mommy, me, and Ethan. But this time, she had drawn all 3 holding hands. I stared at it and realized something I had never understood before. Protecting a family was not about controlling every door around them. Sometimes it meant trusting them enough to let them walk through the door with you. And somewhere outside that quiet room, someone had just learned that the little girl they thought had disappeared forever was finally back in my life. The message stayed on the table between us like a door nobody wanted to open. We know you found her. I read it again, then slipped the phone into my pocket. Lily was still coloring, humming softly to herself as if the world had not changed in the last 5 minutes. Claire watched me carefully. You are thinking about sending us away, she said. No, you are thinking about it. I looked at her. I am thinking about keeping Lily safe. Those are not always the same thing. Her words reminded me of what she had said earlier. protecting people by deciding what they were allowed to know. I had spent years believing that was what responsibility meant. Now I was beginning to understand the difference between protection and control. Then help me decide, I said. Claire looked surprised. You want my opinion? I should have wanted it 6 years ago. She lowered her eyes. Ethan, there is something else you need to know. Before she could continue, Lily jumped off the sofa. Can we go home now? I looked at her drawing. Where is home? She pointed toward Claire. Our apartment. I glanced at Claire. Then I will take you. She immediately shook her head. You cannot just come with us. I know. Then why did you say that? Because I want to see where my daughter has grown up. Lily smiled. You can come. Claire gave her a look. Lily shrugged. He is my daddy. The simple statement left both of us speechless. An hour later, we were driving through Queens. The polished world I knew disappeared behind us. Tall buildings gave way to smaller apartment blocks, corner stores, parked cars, and narrow sidewalks filled with families returning home. Claire lived in a modest second-floor apartment above a bakery. When the door opened, the smell of fresh bread drifted through the hallway. Lily ran inside and dropped her little backpack beside the sofa. This is my room, she announced. She pulled me down the hallway before I could answer. Her bedroom was small, but every inch reflected her personality. Books filled one shelf. Colored drawings covered the walls. A stuffed rabbit sat on the bed with one ear bent forward. I stood quietly in the doorway. 6 years of her life were here. 6 years I had never seen. This is where she sleeps, Claire said behind me. I know. I touched the edge of the doorframe. I am just trying to imagine everything I missed. Claire was silent. Then Lily came running back with a small wooden box. Mommy keeps important things in here. Claire's face changed. Lily, put that back. But Lily had already opened it. Inside were letters, photographs, and a hospital bracelet. My eyes stopped on the bracelet. The name printed across it was Amelia Callahan. I reached for it, then stopped myself. Claire looked at me. She was alive when Lily was born. My breath caught. You told me she died. I said she was gone. That is not the same thing. Claire nodded slowly. No, it is not. Lily looked confused. Where is my mommy now? Claire knelt beside her. She is somewhere peaceful. I looked at the bracelet again. The date was 6 years old. The same date as Lily's birth. Then I noticed a folded letter beneath it. My name was written across the front in Amelia's handwriting. I picked it up carefully. I had spent 6 years believing I would never hear from her again. But now her words were waiting inside a little wooden box in my daughter's bedroom. And I knew, before I even opened it, that whatever Amelia had written would change the truth all over again. The envelope felt heavier than it should have. My name was written across the front in Amelia's handwriting, the same handwriting I had once recognized from grocery lists, birthday cards, and notes left beside my coffee in the morning. 6 years had passed, yet I knew every curve of those letters. I looked at Claire. You knew this was here. She nodded. I knew she left it. Why did you never give it to me? Claire's eyes filled with something I could not quite name. Because Amelia asked me not to. I looked down at the envelope again. And now you found Lily. I think the decision belongs to you. I opened it carefully. Inside was a single folded page. The paper was old, but the words were clear. Ethan, if you are reading this, then somehow the truth found its way back to you. I stopped there. My vision blurred for a moment. I continued. I never stopped loving you. I never wanted Lily to grow up without knowing who her father was. But I was afraid that if you knew about her, the people around you would learn about her too. I thought distance would keep her safe. I thought I could give her a quiet life and explain everything when she was old enough to understand. Then I reached the final lines. If I cannot be there when she asks about you, tell her this. Her father did not abandon her. He simply never knew she existed. I lowered the letter. Claire was crying silently near the kitchen doorway. Lily sat on the floor, arranging colored pencils by size. She looked up. What did my mommy write? I knelt beside her. She wrote that she loved you very much. Lily smiled. I know. Then she looked at me. Did she love you too? I nodded. Very much. Lily seemed satisfied with that answer. But Claire was not. There is more, she said. I stood. What? She walked to the small wooden box and lifted the hospital bracelet. Amelia did not disappear immediately after Lily was born. I looked at the bracelet. What are you saying? She stayed for several weeks. My heart tightened. Where? Claire hesitated. In a small town outside Boston. Why did she leave? Because she discovered someone had been asking questions about Lily. I looked toward the window. Who? I never learned the full name. She paused. But I knew they were connected to your family. That was the first piece of information that made me completely still. For 6 years, I had believed the secret belonged only to Amelia and Claire. Now I understood there had been another person involved. Someone who had known about Lily before I did. Someone who had helped keep the truth hidden. I looked at Claire. Why did you never tell me this? Because I promised Amelia I would protect Lily. Even from me. Especially from anyone who might bring your world to her door. Lily suddenly walked over and slipped her hand into mine. Are you staying? I looked down at her. Yes. She smiled. Good. I squeezed her tiny hand gently. Then my phone vibrated again. Another message. This time, there was a photograph attached. I opened it. It showed the front of Claire's apartment building, taken from across the street. Beneath the image were 6 words. You are not the only one watching. I looked at Claire. She understood immediately. For the first time that night, neither of us spoke. Lily was standing between us, holding my hand. And I realized the secret had never been about where she was. It had always been about who wanted her to stay hidden. The photograph on my phone showed the front of Claire's apartment building from across the street. No explanation. No name. Just a quiet warning that someone had been watching us. I looked at Lily, then at Claire. We are not staying here tonight, I said. Claire nodded. She did not argue. Lily looked up at me, confused but calm. Are we going somewhere? I crouched beside her. Yes, somewhere safe. She thought about it. Is it your house? I smiled. It can be. Her face brightened. Do you have a big television? I almost laughed. Yes. A dog? No. She looked disappointed. We can work on that. Claire gathered a small overnight bag while I stood near the window, watching the street below. The city looked completely ordinary. Cars passed. People walked beneath the streetlights. A couple stopped outside the bakery. Nothing looked suspicious. That was what unsettled me most. I had spent years learning that danger rarely announced itself. Sometimes it simply waited quietly. But this time, I was not alone. I had Lily beside me. I had Claire. And for the first time in my life, protecting someone did not feel like an obligation. It felt personal. We left through the back entrance of the building. The night air was cool, and Lily held my hand as we walked toward the car. Halfway there, she stopped. Daddy. I looked down. It was the first time she had called me that without asking whether she was allowed to. Yes. Will Mommy come too? I looked at Claire. She stood a few feet away, holding Lily's small bag. Of course, I said. We stay together. Lily smiled and slipped her hand back into mine. The drive across Manhattan was quiet. Claire sat beside Lily in the back seat, and I drove. At one point, I looked in the rearview mirror and saw Lily asleep against Claire's shoulder, her silver bracelet catching the soft light from the passing streets. I had seen that bracelet before. 6 years ago, on Amelia's wrist. I remembered the promise I had made that winter before everything changed. If we ever had a child, I would give her a life where she never had to wonder whether she was loved. I had failed before I even knew I had become a father. But failure did not have to be the end of the story. When we reached my townhouse, Claire stepped out first. Lily woke slowly and looked around. This is your house. Yes. She stared at the tall windows and stone steps. Then she looked at me. It is very big. Too big, probably. She smiled. Maybe we can make it less quiet. I opened the front door. Warm light filled the entryway. For the first time in years, the house did not feel like a place built for one man. It felt like something waiting to become a home. Lily walked inside, still holding my hand. Claire followed. Then Lily stopped and looked up at me. Daddy. Yes. Can I stay forever? My throat tightened. I knelt in front of her. If you want to. She wrapped her arms around me. I held her carefully, closing my eyes as I felt the weight of 6 lost years and the possibility of everything still ahead. Behind us, Claire wiped away a tear. I looked at her over Lily's shoulder. There were still questions between us. There were still secrets we had not uncovered. But for that moment, none of them mattered more than the little girl standing in my arms. I had spent half my life building a world where nobody could take anything from me. Then one little girl ran into a ballroom, knocked a glass from my hand, and gave me something I never knew I had lost. A family. And that night, for the first time, I understood that power was never measured by how many people feared your name. It was measured by how many people trusted you enough to call you home.